Grammar lesson 68, colons and hyphens. So we've come to the last lesson in this grammar unit. So just a couple things to learn yet before we have a quiz. And we're going to focus today on colons and hyphens. So first of all, colons, they're not used especially often in grammar and writing, but it is good to be aware of the certain times that you would use them. The first time we're going to look at is if you're starting a business letter, so a very official letter, what you need to do is have an opening to that letter. We've looked at that in writing before, and you would put a colon after the opening to the letter. So you could say, "Dear Sir," or if you knew the person's name, you could say, "Dear Mrs. Smith," and then you would put a colon after it. The other time that you use colons, and this is probably the most common time that you would use a colon, is to show time. And we're very used to doing that. So if I wanted to say the time was 2:30, you need to use a colon for that. That's not too complicated, and I think you're very used to seeing that and doing that. So we can move on to perhaps a little bit more of a complicated time to use a colon. So you can use a colon to introduce a list of items, but only in specific cases. So I'd just like to briefly go over that. So in my first example here, I say, "I went to the store and bought a lot of fruit." And then you'll notice I have a colon, peaches, apricots, and kiwis. Okay, so in this case, we use a colon to introduce the list of items, which is fruit in this sentence. But you'll notice that I have a second example here of listing the same fruit and very similar information, but just slightly grammatically different. I went to the store and bought peaches, apricots, and kiwis. Now, this second example is probably the more common way to grammatically structure a sentence that has a list in it. And the reason that there's a difference, the reason that there is no colon right there between bought and peaches is because the first part of this sentence, it's not an independent clause, right? We've been talking about independent and dependent clauses in grammar. This is not an independent clause. It's not a full sentence that could stand on its own. So if I just said, "I went to the store and bought," you would be waiting for some more information. Well, Miss Nyhoff, what did you buy at the store, right? You have that question in your head as a reader. So it can't be considered an independent clause. And if it's not an independent clause, you don't use a colon, you just go straight into your list. Okay, however, in the first example, "I went to the store and bought a lot of fruit," could stand on its own as an independent clause. So in that case, you use a colon. Now, for all the lists in your grammar lesson today, you are going to use a colon because it's for practicing using colons, but I just want you to be aware that you don't always use a colon when you write a list. So when you get to doing some listing in different writing that you're going to do, don't just start sticking colons in front of all your lists. It's probably actually going to be that you would be writing sentences like this second one. All right, so that's colons. Let's move on to hyphens. Hyphens have come up before. I think in spelling we had a whole list of compound words, and some of them used hyphens and some of them didn't. So today in grammar, you're going to be focusing on using hyphens in some compound words. So my first example, "I had a part-time job while I was in school." Part-time is acting as it's one adjective. So you could think of it as like one word or one thing. What kind of job was it? It was a part-time job. Okay, we need both of those words to make the adjective part-time. We need part and time for it to make sense. So those get joined with a hyphen. Or you could think quite often we use it with number words. So she ran 23 laps of the track. How many laps did she run? She ran 23. We need to have both the word 20 and 3 joined together for it to make sense, right? She didn't just run 20. She didn't just run 3. She ran 23. So we're using a hyphen to join these compound words. Now, there's another time that you use hyphens, and this would be when you are writing longer paragraphs and things like that, and you come to the end of a line and you have a bit of a longer word that doesn't fit at the end of the line. You need to separate that word using a hyphen, but there are a couple things to keep in mind. Number one, you have to make sure that where you separate it is in between syllables. Okay, so don't just randomly separate it wherever you want and put whatever letters you want at the end of the line. It has to be between syllables. So in this example, I had to make the long drive to Washington every day. We have Washington. Okay, so our syllables are separated, making sure that you have them separated. Now, it doesn't show it on this example, but another thing to keep in mind is that you can never just put one letter down on the next line with a hyphen. That's grammatically incorrect. If you have one letter, make sure, or if the syllable maybe even is only one letter, make sure that it gets attached to the word, or you split the word in some other spot. Okay, so hyphens can be used to split words at syllable splits in order to carry them over to the next line. And that's it. That's all we have to know for today about colons and hyphens. Make sure that you are reading your grammar exercises carefully to make sure that you put all the colons and hyphens in the correct places.